Welcome back, everybody. I hope you had a productive and/or enlightening break while we were gone. What'd you do? I ate half a pizza, so I guess you could say things are going pretty all right. Thanks for coming in and joining us for another couple hours of Amara's Rose by Brianna Gu. I could do a little bit to catch you up, I suppose. Broad strokes. Rose is on Earth with the keeper of Earth, Ben, who is a runaway from his parents. They're in Chicago, and they're just trying to make their way, but it seems like Rose wants to get to Portland, where there's somebody who knows more about the key. Meanwhile, back on Amara, Sylvia and Phoenix are working with the king and a bunch of the other townspeople, trying to find a way to construct another key so that they might figure out what the hell happened, where Rose might be. That's in essence where we're at. What happened to surface conditions? Why did they be bad? I would recommend go look at anything else we've done this weekend and find out for yourself, because there's been a lot of bad. We've been standing in the metaphorical rain and really enjoying it. It's been a lot of fun. Damn, I just nutted. All right. Very last thing. Was taken aback at my tone. Da-da-da-da-da. Ben doesn't want to talk about his parents. Chapter 20. Phoenix's perspective. Sitting on Sylvia's bed in the palace, I study her face as she absorbs what I've just told her about Rose and Rose's father. It's a lot to digest, and on top of that, it's very shocking. A look of understanding dawns on her face. So, basically, Phoenix, what you're telling me is that Rose's disappearance and her father's death, supposed death, could be linked? Yes, if you look at the connections between the two, you can see it, I say again, excited about my idea. Rose suddenly disappeared in battle, and so did her father. Both disappeared without a trace, and there's no actual evidence that either of them are, in fact, dead. Sylvia looks like we just found the cure for cancer. Oh, that makes so much sense. I just had a dream about Mr. Sanders' disappearance, and Rose's too. She leaps to her feet. Do you think they're together somewhere? Rose and her dad? I try to be my usual rational self and present a balanced argument. I don't know if Rose and her father are even in the same place, let alone if she found him. I do, however, think that they are alive, wherever they happen to be at the moment. Besides, and I know this sounds strange, but I feel if Rose were dead, we would know. She whirls around excitedly. Yes, I agree. We really need to test a portal to know if they're working properly. Yeah, and remember what Nolana Hanaway told you she did? At the mention of Hanaway's name, Sylvia opens her mouth to say something, but shuts it as I continue. She watched for an annual portal to see if it opened in the right place and time, and it did. So if we go to where the next annual portal is due to open, we can send someone through to actually test it. Sylvia looks like she's going to burst with good news, so I shut up so she can talk. Phoenix, I need to tell you something. Frick, I can't believe I forgot. She grabs my arm excitedly. Hanaway told me earlier that this afternoon that the flash of light that took Rose was blue and brown. So you and I need to figure out which portal is that color, and no matter which portal is due to arrive next, we'll test it to verify it's working. Then, once we have the key, we can find Rose. My mouth drops open as soon as I hear about the color of the flash of light. Okay, I say, taking a deep breath and count off my fingers. Here's what we'll do. Number 1, we'll keep everyone researching how to make a key. Number 2, we'll find the next annual portal that's due to appear, and if it looks safe enough, we'll send someone on through to test it. And number 3, we'll figure out which portals have blue and brown colors so we're ready to go as soon as we have a new key. I can't get over this, brown light thing. Yes, you're right. That's a great plan, Sylvia quickly agrees. So, when is the next portal due to come? I'm not really sure. I know Nalana checked one by her house. Isn't there some reference book that lists all the portals? Sylvia wrinkles her brow. Rose has a book full of portal dates in her house, and I know there's a book somewhere in the castle, too. The one in the castle is closer, I say quickly, not really wanting to go to Rose's empty house. It'd be too painful. Sylvia nods. My mother or father will know where it is. We should go ask them, she suggests, racing towards the door. I'm right on her heels. We pass Evelyn, who's still guarding Sylvia's door from the outside. She looks bewildered, probably because I somehow got into the room without her knowing, but she doesn't try to stop us. I follow Sylvia through twisty corridors in the direction of the library. When we get there, I realize just how late it is because the library is nearly empty. Almost everyone has gone home for the night. Sylvia leads the way to Jessica, a palace maid, who's reading and has 2 small stacks of books in front of her. Excuse me, I'd like to know where my mother is gone, Sylvia says in what Rose classifies as her princess voice. It's the kind of tone expected from royalty, sort of stuck up, a little demanding. It's what her mother has taught her to do. The queen has retired to her chambers for the night, princess. And my father? Sylvia asks. He's gone up to the North Tower, I believe, the girl says. Thank you. That is all I need to know. Sylvia spins on her heel and heads out of the room. I smile my thanks at Jessica, and then I'm right behind Sylvia. She sets a fast pace. She is on a mission. I can barely keep up, especially on the stairs. Does she do this every day for exercise or what? I'm panting too hard to ask her. When we finally reach the top of the tower, we're both out of breath. She silently motions for me to follow her into the room at the top of the stairs. We pause just inside the doorway of the high-ceilinged round room. Father, is it okay if I ask you a question? Sylvia says in a soft voice that one generally uses when they're hoping for a positive answer. The king looks up from the book he is studying at a desk in the center of the room. He makes eye contact with me, and I curtsy automatically, bowing my head. Yes, my daughter, he says in an even voice. What is it you wish to ask? We would like to know where the book is. The Book of Portals. He leans back in his chair. Why would you like to see it? Sylvia entwines her fingers in front of her. She starts, then clears her throat. We believe it will help us in our search for Rose. I see, the king nods. It is in the war room. I shall have to retrieve it for you later. Sylvia's face falls, and I'm not too thrilled either at the wait. Even I know that we cannot retrieve it for ourselves because the war room is off limits to those not in Bronze Squad or higher. Because neither Sylvia nor I are even in the army, we can't go into the war room, even though Sylvia is the princess. The king notices that we haven't left. Is there anything else you need from me? No, father, that is all, thank you. We will be going now. I curtsy as Sylvia turns to leave, then pauses when her father continues speaking in a more gentle tone. I want you to know, Sylvia, that I firmly believe that your friend will find a way to return. She's a rather stubborn and persistent person. I smile at the king's statement. He would certainly know. When Rose was 13, she was invited by the general to join Gold Squad. Unfortunately, he had extended the offer before securing permission from the king, who believed at the time that women should not be allowed on Gold Squad. So in order to convince him to change his mind, Rose sent him a letter every hour, on the hour, for 2 weeks. It was her way of showing she had the dedication needed for Gold Squad, that she could be articulate and persuasive, and that she wasn't going to give up. It worked. Sylvia bows her head to her father. Thank you for your faith in my friend's return. Thank you, additionally, for getting the book for us. She looks up at him with an appreciative smile. I curtsy to him, even though I'm wearing a pair of jeans, one Rose had acquired for me. What would Amara be like if Rose had not left her very distinct mark on it? It's a sad thought. I choose not to dwell on it. Sylvia turns again to leave, and I follow her out the door. After a few turns down the spiral stairs, I ask, Are we going to the library? Yes, we'll have to wait for a bit before my father brings us the book. We might as well do it there so we can continue to search for information about how the key was made. We don't have to wait long. Sylvia's father shows up shortly and sets the book on the table in front of us before heading back out of the library. The Book of Portals is huge. Rose once said there are a lot of planets to be explored, but we never grasped exactly how many. Written on the front of the brown leather book in gold letters is simply, Portals! I guess they weren't going for elaborate. Oh, there's a table of contents. Thank goodness, Sylvia breathes. I agree. No, they're not in the military. You're below Bronze Squad. It's a militocratic system, I guess. I don't know. Interplanetary politics are weird. We quickly learn that the portals are organized by date, with the first month in our calendar year in the front of the book and the last month in the back. The portals are all listed in tiny rows and columns, starting with the planet name, then the date at which the portal will show up, where the portal will show up, how long the portal will last, and then how frequently the portal shows up for that particular planet. And in the very back of the book is a section with portal colors and their corresponding planets. I quickly flip to the back of the book and look for a blue-brown portal, sliding my finger down the page to the B section. The blue and brown portal belongs to Earth. I think, because there's also blue, brown, and green, and a blue, brown, and yellow, and a large variety of other colors. But Earth's is the only two-toned blue and brown. I cannot get over this fucking brown light. There's no brown light. There's no such thing as brown light. It's orange. It's orange light. Sylvia, I whisper, look here. I tap the page excitedly and she smiles. Rose has got to be on Earth. That would make sense, in a weird sort of way. My stomach drops. What if... Oh no, Sylvia frowns. Crap. The portal for Earth arrived the day before Rose disappeared. And the Earth portal shows up only once a year, which means we'll absolutely have to make a new key unless we're willing to wait nearly a year to go get her. I sit back and absorb that depressing information. Well, we can still try out our other portal idea to make sure the portals are working properly. Without much enthusiasm, I turn back to the beginning of the book and skim the pages. It looks like portals open up around Amara several times a week, and sometimes more than one a day. I had no idea they appeared so often. I flip through several inches of pages before we get to today's date. Sylvia quickly drags her finger down the list and stops at the next entry. We have 3 days, she announces, until we can figure out if the portals are still working. That's when the next annual portal shows up. It's for a planet called Darnisha. She leans back in her chair, and I take another look at the page, just in case, but she's correct. Well, so not only do we have to wait almost a year to get to Earth if we don't make another key, but we also seem to have hit quite a spot in portal happenings, I lament. It's going to be a very long 3 days. Sylvia's shoulders slump as she sits in her chair and stares at the library's stone ceiling. I feel the same dejection she does, but I'd rather keep busy than do nothing. I firmly shut the book. We've gathered all the information we need from it. Sylvia calls over a maid and carefully hands it over to her to return to the king. And that's it, I sigh. I glance around the library and recall that I had asked Colin to wait here for me. That was several hours ago, but he will still be here somewhere, knowing Colin. He waves at me from a far corner, so Sylvia and I walk over to him. Do you still have my books? I ask as I plop down in the chair next to him. Phoenix dispiritedly takes a chair across the table from us. He looks at me with a small smile. Wait, what? This is from Phoenix's perspective, but suddenly Phoenix dispiritedly takes a chair. We've accidentally switched into Sylvia's perspective in a Phoenix chapter. He looks at me with a small smile. She forgot who she was writing. Yes, they're in the taller stack right in front of you. I haven't been able to find anything about making the gatekeeper key, though. Sorry, Phoenix. It's okay, I reassure him. We found out the next portal is coming in 3 days, so our plan is to go to it and see if it, and therefore other portals, still work. Hopefully we'll figure out about the key before then. That's good. We need to reunite the 3 musketeers, Colin grins cheerfully. We will, Sylvia says, picking up a book. I just really hope that it's sooner, rather than later, she adds forlornly. Colin and I nod solemnly. Sylvia's remark kills the conversation fast. I set to work reading history books with renewed, well, not enthusiasm, but energy and hope. Chapter 21, Rose. This drink is way better than coffee, I say while sipping something called hot chocolate at the 7th Avenue Diner located a few blocks from the nice hotel. I still think coffee is better, Ben says, taking a sip of his coffee as if to prove his point. Ugh. Not only is he being stubborn about the coffee, but he still didn't tell me about his parents when we were at the hotel this morning. We've been here about 15 minutes already, and I'm on my 3rd cup of hot chocolate. I stir the melting whipped cream and chuckle to myself. This time, in order to get a corner booth, I flat out asked for one instead of putting on the whole couple show. Ben was amused by my behavior. I flip my braid over my shoulder. So what's your plan for IDing the man in the picture? I ask him, curious if he has even thought about it. Here comes our breakfast, so I'll explain after we eat. It's fairly simple, and it has a decent chance of working. I smile, elated. I'm one step closer to getting home. The waitress sets down our plates of food. Why the joyous faces? She asks. Anything special happening today? I notice a sparkle from her necklace and look at it more closely. It's a silver cross with an elegant blue stone in the middle. My eyes drift to her name tag. Sanders. That's my last name. How odd. Ben answers her question. Oh, we just figured out a solution to a problem we've been having. He takes a bite of his food. The name of the waitress is bugging me for some reason. Sanders is a common enough last name, but there's a faint ringing in my head. Is Sanders your last name? I ask her. Yeah, that's Rose's last name. It is. My boss thinks it's more professional to go by last names. That's my last name, I say. I'm Rose Sanders. I'm Matilda Sanders. It's nice to meet you, she says, smiling. Classic Chicago accent. My gut clenches. I don't know why. I'm not nervous or scared or anything else that would ignite the feeling. I hold out my hand. Nice to meet you, Matilda. It's weird that we have the same last name. Matilda shakes my hand. It is, she says, and shifts her weight to her right foot. Do I know you from somewhere? She cocks her head, looking closely at my face. You must be a relative of my husband's, I think. You don't look a lot like him, but I can see some resemblance. You both have the same facial structure, and he gets the same expression on his face as you have right now, she shrugs. Well, it's probably just a coincidence. A sweat breaks out on my face. Could she be... No, it's not possible. My gut is probably messed up because of something I ate here on Earth. That's why it's sending me a familiar message I haven't heard in a long time. Before I can tell her my only male relative is dead, so therefore I can't be related to her husband, there's a loud bang from the front of the diner. Cooley! We know you're in here! A man shouts over the scared screams of the customers. Cooley? Wait, where do I recognize that name from? Matilda lets out a shriek and runs back into the kitchen. I swing around in the booth to look at the rude jerk who yelled. Oh, shat. I see the source of the loud noise. The man's waving around a gun, and he looks like he knows how to use it. Add that fact to the corded muscles bulging out below the short sleeves of his dirty white t-shirt, and it looks like trouble. Sheesh. Why can't Ben and I eat our breakfast in peace? 2 henchmen, each with his own gun, enter the diner and stand behind their leader. Cooley, where are you? The first man bellows as he brandishes his gun and looks around the diner. A sneaking suspicion creeps up on me. I look over at Ben. Please tell me that's not your last name. I gulp. My gut is telling me that we're about to have some trouble on our hands. It is. His voice is monotone and his expression resigned. My stomach plummets. Please tell me you don't know them, I ask, hoping for a miracle. I know them, he says as he watches the first man scan the room. Wait a second. Cooley. Victoria Cooley. Could Ben know the woman my mother wrote about in her journal? Before I can ask, all three men look to our corner booth and see Ben. Malicious delight crosses the first man's face, and he stalks towards us, motioning for the other two to stay by the door. Escape route number 1 is now cut off. My mind races into overdrive, working on other possible escape routes and wondering why these men could be after Ben. Could it have to do with his father? Could it be something about why he owed that Joey guy money? What other trouble has Ben gotten in before I met him? There's too much I don't know. But I do know this isn't going to be pretty. I reach for the knife in my boot, only to realize that Ben still has it. Frick! Why didn't I get it back from him earlier? How could I have forgotten it? Ben, knife, now, I tell him hurriedly. He looks away from the approaching man and gives me a blank stare. How in the world am I supposed to fight now? Ben, knife! Anyone who tries to call the cops or escape, shouts the white t-shirt, who I assume is the leader, will be shot. He swaggers over to our table. Ben, give me my knife, I whisper furiously. Now! Ben finally seems to realize what I'm talking about and reaches to grab it from his backpack, but he's cut off as the leader slams his fist onto the table. Ben freezes. So, Cooley, we meet again, he says. He's shorter than I thought, and older. And who's this? A girlfriend? And stupider, too. Nonetheless, my stomach turns violently. He sounds much too confident for me to be able to walk all over him. Why couldn't Ben just let me keep my knife? And why does everyone assume I'm his girlfriend? I study my opponent, for that's what he is. The jerk looks like he knows how to fight. It's the way he holds himself loosely but ready to spring, with the extra confidence of being able to fight gives him. That's what it says, word for word. Ben's still staring at the table and hasn't replied to the man's questions, so the guy whips around to me. I'm usually too fast for these humans, but this guy catches me off guard when he roughly grabs my arm and tries to yank me up from the booth. That's so not going to happen. I bite him. He pulls back, but only to gather momentum to land a punch on me. I duck, and he's thrown off balance when his fist collides with the air, and the gun in his other hand clanks against the table. Ben, meanwhile, sits there and does nothing, his expression blank, his eyes unfocused. Gee, he's super helpful to have around in a fight. The people in the next booth over gape at us as if they don't understand what they're seeing. At least the people in the other nearby booths have enough sense to cower under a table and not make eye contact. But really, humans have horrible fight, flight, or freeze responses. They tend to favor the third, and worst, option. The gunman eyes me warily, but at least he doesn't get close to try to grab me again, so I turn my attention to Ben. Ben, what does this scumbag want with you? And why in the world would you ever have anything to do with a guy like this? I'm not a scumbag, the guy says maliciously and waves his gun in my direction, then continues. I'll forgive you for that, though, if your boyfriend has the money to pay me back. I look at Ben. So that's why this bozo's come after him. Everyone has connections. They really shouldn't, Ben says to me weakly, not quite meeting my eyes. Great, I say, trying to keep calm. You've got not only the connection from yesterday, but now this one? I know I'm outgunned, literally. People like this scumbag can smell fear. Well, the best defense is a good offense. By the way, Ben's not my boyfriend, I say in a snarky tone to Mr. White T-shirt. I just thought I'd point that out. Look, Ben interrupts, I don't have your money now, but if you give me a week, I can have all the money I owe you. The guy narrows his eyes and studies him. How much do you owe him? I ask calmly and pointedly ignore the gun aimed at me. My brain zones in on one thing, survival, and that means getting this loser the money Ben owes him. $10,000, Ben says quietly. Sounds like a lot of money, but that doesn't matter at the moment. What does is getting this creep out of here. Yup, I say to the scumbag who's still standing way too close for my comfort. We can get your money to you in a week. He laughs harshly and I can smell his pungent breath. How do you expect to do that when all he's gotten me is $700 in a year? You're horrible at getting money, I tell Ben, which makes the man laugh again. Give me a break. I'm a homeless teenager who's in debt to more than one person, Ben sputters. He really is panicking. Now fear rises in my throat, but I swallow it. Why can't you just ask your parents for the money? I ask. Didn't he tell you? Little Ben's been shunned by the family, the man cackles cruelly as he blocks my way out of the booth. This is news to me. Why was Ben shunned? Ben finally stares at the man directly. How did you find me? Now he's getting into the swing of things. If only he could give me my knife. Let's just say a little birdie told me. The man's gaze shifts to me. He said he ran into you and some little girl who was quite vicious. He tracked you down after he ran into you, and he's been following you ever since. The rest was quite easy. Frick! He knows the man I beat up, the guy who followed us in the burned-out part of town. Well, that's not good. Ben was right about that coming back to haunt me. Ben thrusts out his chin and says in a determined voice, I'll get you the money back. I don't believe you, the man says, so I'll be taking the girl. He quickly shifts his weight towards me. For insurance purposes. I'm sure you understand. What? I launch myself onto the table to evade his grasp, but my feet slip on the booth's seat and I can't get traction. Stupid human contraption. The beefy creep grabs my arm and jerks me out of the booth, then painfully twists my arm up behind my back. My attempts to grab the table are less than successful, and the kicks I aim at him don't do any good either. My breath hitches in my throat as I feel the cool barrel of a gun press against my head. I squirm and try to twist out of his grasp and away from the gun. I rarely deal with guns, and I'm not quite sure how to get it from him without shooting myself. I can't get the leverage I need to take him down, not with one of my arms pinned and a gun in play. You got 1 week, lover boy. If not, she'll be dead in a ditch. I can't help it. I snort. The more scared I get, the more ridiculous the entire situation seems. If only I had my knife, then there wouldn't be a situation. Do you think it's funny? He asks, brutally twisting my arm up higher on my back. Ouch! I do think it's funny, actually, I say, forcing a laugh for good measure. If all else fails, I know not to show my fear, a basic lesson Bronze Squad learns on day 1. Sirens screech in the distance. I assume someone in the kitchen called the cops. Maybe I can stall until they get here. Sirens! One of the men guarding the door shouts. Darn, why did they have to hear them too? The man gripping me with his huge paw turns his head to look at his buddies by the door. I stomp on his foot hard. As I anticipated, he lifts his sore foot, so I elbow him in the gut with my free arm, knocking him over and breaking his hold on me. Unluckily for me, the 2 other guys must have seen my stomp because they're rushing toward us. Ben grabs his backpack and we bolt toward the side door. It's nice to know that now that the situation has escalated, Ben's thinking clearly. I'm right on his heels when someone grabs my braid and brings me up short. Ah! I scream at what feels like my hair being pulled out. Let me go, you scumbag of a mundane! I scream as I struggle desperately to get loose. I manage to land a few blows, but something heavy, I assume it's the gun, slams against my head. Pain explodes throughout my skull, and I crumple to the ground. 1 week is the last thing I hear, before everything goes dark. Next is chapter 22, Rose. I'm going to do a chair stream real quick. $700 in a year? Who the fuck is loaning $10,000 to a 15-year-old boy? Like, that's just how did we get here? She seems to, the author, I mean, seems to have like a really bizarre sense of, like, a late 30s man wouldn't know how to go extract $10,000 from any kind of criminal underworld. Not that I would, and hopefully they wouldn't even give it to me because I'm just like some guy, but like, where's he getting these big money loans? Why is he so like embroidered into Chicago's criminal underworld? He's a 15-year-old boy. And also, yeah, 700 in a year, that's some shit. All right. Give me a second. The next chapter is straight back into Rose again. So I think she must be waking up in her like hostage situation. It actually, I'm realizing now, raises another interesting question. They've established pretty firmly that electricity doesn't work on Amara, except when it does, when it's battery powered, I guess. But they haven't covered guns. I guess we should probably assume guns also don't work on Amara, which I don't know. They've got some kind of like hand wavy physics don't work the same on other planets kind of thing, or chemistry, like molecular chemistry. I don't know. But A, she's like a 14-year-old girl. B, she like fully admits she doesn't even really know what guns are, but does know what guns are. She simultaneously does and doesn't know what guns are. And I feel like, being that they are the most significant martial invention in history that like completely changed the way people deal with each other and like violence and stuff, that it'd be pretty important that you would know what a gun is and that you would I get that you would bring them to Amara. Like I don't Chapter 22. Rose's perspective still. I wake up in a small, dark, musty room that smells like armpit. Loud, raucous music plays somewhere. At first, I can't remember what happened, so I panic. What had I gotten myself into this time? It feels really, really serious. Then it all comes rushing back. The battle on Amara, being stuck on Earth, meeting Ben, getting kidnapped because he owes some money to some creeps. My panic increases. Are they going to kill me? No, they need me as bait. Are they going to do something worse? Starve me to death? Beat me? I mean, they only have to keep me alive for a week. Not necessarily in good condition, just alive. How can I possibly survive, even if they don't kill me directly? Why did my family have to be the gatekeepers? Why not someone else? I can't die yet. Stop. No more panicking. You're not going to escape when you're thinking this unclearly. I inhale slowly, then exhale and try to relax. This is not good. Not good at all. If only I had beaten them up back in the diner. I silently fume. Why didn't Ben give me my knife back? Then I would have had a fighting chance. Now, I'm much farther from getting to Oregon. And home. Frick! My people need me, and I'm stuck in some closet that smells worse than a dead glowing stone fish that's been sitting in the sun for 3 days. My head throbs, and the music doesn't help, but I ignore both annoyances. Sitting up slowly, black spots dance across my vision, and I pause for a minute. Several deep breaths help to block out the pain in my head and the fury coursing through my veins. I need to think clearly. My eyes eventually adjust to the light. The smelly room I'm in is big enough for me to lie flat on the floor and to maybe stand up in, but that's about it. The roof slopes steeply downwards. It's a normal height at the doorframe and gets progressively smaller towards the back of the room, if you can call it that. And because that wretched pounding music is coming through the door, I'm assuming there's a bigger room on the other side, which means I really am stuck in a closet. And you will never guess because Ben is outside. And he said, wait, I still got $10,000 and I will give it to you. Sorry. I swallow the claustrophobia that rises like a tidal wave in my stomach, trying to trick myself into thinking that the room is bigger than it actually is. Trying not to focus on the fact that the darkness feels like it's wrapping around my lungs, constricting my air supply. My gut twists painfully as panic replaces anger. I'm not afraid of many things, but small spaces freak me out. I try not to scream, so I punch the wall instead. The skin on one of my knuckles breaks open. Damn it all! I take a deep breath, close my eyes, and picture myself in a much larger room. It takes a few minutes, but the mind over matter thing works well enough for me not to think straight. The music volume is suddenly lowered, and heavy footsteps approach. I breathe deeply again to lower my heart rate and sit with my legs crossed, attempting to appear calm. The door swings open, hitting me, but I refuse to move or speak. A red-haired man I've never seen before pokes his head in and glances at me. She's awake, he says over his shoulder before exiting and slamming the door behind him. A key turns in the lock. Didn't your mother ever tell you that slamming doors is rude? I yell so whoever is on the other side can hear me. No response. They're obviously ignoring me, which pisses me off to no end. I don't take well to being ignored, so now is the perfect time for them to learn that. Besides, the best way to ignore fear is to distract yourself. Parentheses, Day 2 in Bronze Squad. 99 bottles of beer on the wall, 99 bottles of beer, I sing, shout actually, the annoying song I heard kids chanting one time I visited Earth. I'm not a good singer, so I plug my own ears so I don't have to hear my wailing. The men continue to ignore me, or at least I assume so. No one's opened my door yet. How many verses will they last? I make sure to move back from the door so I don't get hit with it again. 20 verses later, I finally get my reaction. Someone pounds on the door. Shut up in there! I sing at the top of my lungs for one more verse, but then the door bangs open and a man appears in the doorframe. A different guy this time, with a huge, angry scar marring half his face. I instantly quiet down and feign innocence. No more singing, he says, scowling. He towers over me. I look up at him with an I wasn't doing anything expression, and when I remain silent, he stalks out and slams the door. Again, the lock clicks. Dang it. I stare at the wall, plotting how to escape. I could kick the door down, but no, I can tell by looking at it that it's too thick. Or, the next time the door opens, I could barge out and run for it. No, I don't know what's on the other side. Besides, once I get past the first person, there's undoubtedly more of them out there. Deciding my time would be better spent doing something other than coming up with ridiculous schemes, I stand up and run my hands over the walls. Maybe I'll find a loose board, or a trap door, or some other sneaky way to escape. At least the music in the other room is loud enough that the men don't hear me shuffling around, but not so loud that my headache returns. 20 minutes later, I'm more than a little desperate. This is what happens when imaginations wander. False hope. I've found nothing. No hidden doors or loose boards. For good measure, I check the floor again and get the same result. Nothing to do but sit, wait, try to remain calm, and hope inspiration strikes. What was the saying? Oh yeah, patience is a virtue. Ha! That's one virtue I don't have. My thoughts turn to Amara. Will I ever see it again? I might never know what happened during the battle. What fate came to my friends, my village, my people? I might never know what happened to Lexi, if she's on some other planet as I am, or if she's still on Amara, or if she's dead or alive. Helplessness washes over me. I can't go back home to help my people fight. For once, I desperately wish I had listened to orders. If only I was up on the cliffs with the archers, instead of trying to get my revenge on Lexi, I could still be on Amara. I could be helping my people. Why couldn't I have just listened for once? Line of asterisks. Some indeterminate amount of time later, the door suddenly opens. The ruddy-faced, red-haired man, I decide to call him Butch, looms over me and drops something in my lap, then shuts the door. The lock clicks, painfully reminding me of what a small space I'm in. The walls and ceiling close in on me. Fear rises in my throat. I take 4 deep breaths to calm myself. It doesn't work very well. In fact, it doesn't work at all. I scream a choice word as loud as I can, but I feel only slightly better, and then guilt fills me that I swore. My mother always told me it was very illiterate to swear, but I'm in a closet and might die in a week. I think she would understand, wherever she is right now. Suddenly, bitterness eats away at me. Why did my mother leave me? I was only a child. What drove her to think it was acceptable to leave me and my sister all alone, unsure of what to do, where to go? Who in the world does that to a child? What was her selfish motivation behind that? Was I not good enough? I shake my head and try to clear it of all those negative thoughts. They're not going to help me formulate an escape plan. I finally remember the bag the man dropped in my lap, and pull out what vaguely looks like food, although it smells disgusting. It's some greasy blob that I believe Ben calls a burger. I gag and nearly throw up. I reluctantly choke it down. Who knows if I'll get more food anytime soon. I hope Ben will somehow find me and help me escape, or at least some magic fairy will bring me better food. Chapter 23. Sylvia. 2 more days until the portal shows up. 2 miserably long days. Phoenix and Colin intently read their books across the library table from me, but I focus on the door instead. I'm waiting for my mother so we can discuss forming a group to check out the annual portal to Darnisha. That particular portal will stay open for a day on both Amara and Darnisha, but Phoenix and I thought it would be best to go through right as it opens. That way, whoever goes through will have ample time to get back to Amara. Better safe than sorry, as they say. But of course, I have to propose the plan to my mother and get the royal okay. Seconds later, my mother appears. I get up and briskly walk to her, resisting the urge to dash over. Curtsying, I ask in my politest tone, "Mother, I was wondering if I could speak with you." "Of course, my dear. What is it you would like to discuss?" My mother sits down at the table that has been reserved for her and my father. "Last night, we discovered that an annual portal to the planet of Darnisha will open in 2 days. It is the soonest annual portal to open and, obviously, one we don't need a key for. Phoenix and I have been brainstorming a plan.
We'd like to test the portal to see if they're still working properly."
My mother nods, listening intently. So far, so good.
"Yesterday, with the help of Nolana Hanaway, we came to the conclusion that the portal that took Rose away was the portal to Earth. If the portal to Darnisha works, we will wait for the next annual portal to Earth to go look for Rose there. But first, we need to know if the annual portals work."
My mother nearly, but not quite, interrupts me.
"Will we continue our search for the key and its origins in the meantime?" "Of course, Mother, because if we find it, we can open a portal to Earth immediately, and we fully intend to just that. But as I was saying,"
I continue, trying not to get irritated at the near interruption. I just want to get my plan approved and ready for action.
"Our plan for the Darnisha portal is to take a small group to the ridge where it appears, and to send one volunteer through to the other side. That group, the group that Phoenix and I propose is myself, Phoenix, Colin, and Nolana. I know—"
"Absolutely not!" My mother's quiet voice takes a dangerous tone, and she stands up so we're at eye level. "You're all much too young to be risking going through a portal. We will send adults on the Gold Squad instead." I take a deep breath.
"Mother, please. Gold and Silver Squad are still combing Amara. We are all close to Rose, and we all want to find her. We are the best volunteers for the job."
Before my mother can respond, my father arrives. "And what might you two be discussing?" he asks. He must have seen the sour looks on our faces. He's frequently the mediator between our fights.
"Let me discuss this with your father,"
my mother says, stalking off, my father's hand discreetly patting her on the arm. A couple minutes later, they return, my mother with a terse look on her face.
"Your father has agreed to your group, as long as he accompanies you."
I quell the urge to jump with joy.
"Thank you so much,"
I squeal quietly and go back to my table to report to my group. Line of asterisks. Phoenix, Colin, and I haven't left the library for 2 days straight, and tonight's the night, finally, that the portal for Darnisha is supposed to show up. But right now, we're running on empty. Phoenix has her head propped up on her elbow as she reads, and Colin has fallen asleep. Only Hanaway is avidly reading and taking notes. Hopelessness hangs heavy in the air. We found several small references about the first key that a king called Ulysses was ruling then, but every time we find a part in a book where there might be more information, the pages have been torn out. Someone, at some point in time, didn't want us to know about the original key, how it was made, or where it came from. I glanced down at the thick volume I'm currently reading. It's an old one titled Great Discoveries and Creations of Our Time. And it was written by Joel Herbertson, an Amarian, about 3 centuries ago. I'm halfway through it when something piques my interest. All right, the text has fully changed fonts right here, so I assume we're doing a book excerpt, and that's how they've chosen to communicate it.
"Quite possibly the greatest Amarian discovery was the day we found what is referred to as the key. It is made of brass and has the power to take us to other worlds that were never known to previously exist. The key was discovered recently by Erin McElnelly, who wrote in her journal that she dreamt of its location. I was granted access to the journal in which she wrote, 'I received a vision that led me to the key. It was a very perilous journey.' Anything else that may have been written in the journal I cannot say, as King Ulysses will not let me look at it for reasons unknown to me. However, as official historian, I continued my research and learned that McElnelly found the key inside a notebook containing secret information on the subject. The key is thought to have previously belonged to one of McElnelly's ancestors. I was able to convince King Ulysses to share with me that McElnelly's dreams also told her how she would be able to make more keys, but he would not tell me how this could be accomplished. 'Even if you knew how,' she told me, 'you would not be able to make a key. However, I am aware that the notebook McElnelly found with the information is hidden somewhere in the great castle. I was able to glean that much from the king before he had me escorted from the palace grounds.'"
That's the end of the chapter, and there doesn't appear to be anything else in the book about the key. I stop reading and look up, staring off into the distance. My mind races.
This book was quite dusty when I opened it, and extremely fragile, so maybe no one has read it in a long time, and that's why these pages are still here and not torn out. People would tend to read newer, updated editions, and not some old relic stuffed behind other ancient books on a dusty shelf. The content of author Joel Herbertson's words finally pushed past my racing thoughts. This is it. This is what we've been looking for. We have answers. I jump up from the table, and Phoenix immediately straightens as she looks inquiringly at me. Colin wakes up with a start. I wasn't. What day is it? His voice is groggy. With a big grin, I place the book in front of Phoenix and point to the text, ignoring Colin's confusion for the moment. Her eyes light up as she scans the page. I hurry over to one of the servants, Jessica. Fetch my mother and father. It is urgent, I order her quietly. Right away, princess, she says and curtsies before hurrying off. The few remaining townspeople in the library look up at the sudden commotion of Jessica exiting the room in a hurry. I smile broadly at them and hold up my index finger to tell them to wait a few minutes. Phoenix has just finished reading, and her head snaps up as I approach. This means all we have to do to help Rose, she says enthusiastically in a hushed tone, is find a hidden notebook somewhere in the castle. It'll tell us how to make another key. I nod. Yes, so now we're back to having two plans for bringing Rose home. I'm elated, but also somewhat daunted. But Phoenix, you know how big the castle is. Rose and I played hide and seek here in the castle when we were little, and Phoenix did too after she moved to Alethea. So we know how big the castle is, and we know tons of hiding places large enough for small children. There has to be thousands more secret places for small objects. And on top of that, we don't know what this old notebook looks like. What is so important, dear? My mother asks when she and my father arrive a few minutes later. Read this section of the book, I say while carefully turning the book to face them and pointing to the paragraphs Joel wrote. Please, I add, remembering my manners, despite my excitement. I wait impatiently, and I bite my lip to control myself. I can't stand still. They're taking forever to read it. When they're done, they look at me with blank faces. I wait in suspense. 1. I count silently to myself as they glance at each other. 2. Their lips turn down, and my father looks thoughtful. 3. My mother turns to me and says sadly, I have not the slightest clue as to where that notebook may be. I am so sorry. I will have people look for it right away, though. I frown at the news. Wouldn't they, of all people, know? Surely they inherited some list or instructions saying where a top-secret notebook is hidden? My mother shakes her head again, and my father looks at me regretfully. Crap. Well, at least that only eliminates one plan for the moment. We can still accomplish the portal plan, I think. But we're still sending people to investigate the portal that's showing up tonight, right? Of course, my dear, my mother says sweetly. My father looks at the large clock on the wall and doesn't say a word as he strides purposefully out of the library. What is he doing? We still have plenty of time before we need to leave for the portal. It'll only take about 15 minutes on horseback. My mother rereads the relevant section of the book, then clears her throat. Uh-oh, here comes a speech. Can I have everyone's attention, please? The handful of patrons in the library listen intently. The Queen is speaking, after all. I would like to begin with thanking you all for your hard work and dedication. It is deeply appreciated. The reason I'm interrupting your search is that Princess Sylvia has discovered important information surrounding the origin of the key. Let me read you the passage in this book. As she reads in a loud, clear voice, I look around the library and notice a couple people taking notes. I cannot believe the dedication of the people of our town to find Rose. I suddenly feel an immense love for my home and its inhabitants. With perfect diction, my mother's voice rings out. As you can tell by this information, an old notebook that very possibly holds the answer to a current predicament exists somewhere in this castle. I believe we can find it. We will need the help of everyone in one way or another. Further instructions will be forthcoming. She sits back down, and chatter erupts throughout the library. My father returns and walks over to my table. All right, he says, let's go. Everyone at my table jumps up immediately. This is the moment we've been waiting for, even if it does seem early to me. In front of the stables, 2 horses are tied to the hitching post. Torchlight dances in the darkness, making it feel warmer than it already is. I hadn't realized how dark it was already, which will slow our ride. Father, are there no horses for the others? We certainly have enough for Phoenix, Colin, and Hannaway to ride. His response is blunt. Unless they are in the army, they do not ride with royalty. Miss Hannaway is on Braun's squad, so she may ride with us if she wishes. No thank you, sir, Hannaway says respectfully. I shall walk with Phoenix and Colin. It would be unfair of me to do otherwise. I detest that rule, but there's no point in arguing further, which would simply irritate my father. I'd rather walk with them, but that would never be allowed. My father once again commands our attention. Once we arrive at the ridge, we will pick someone to go through the portal. Now, let us move out. That was brief, even for my father. A stable boy hands me a torch. With a click to my horse, I lead the way at a slower pace than I'd like, but not so fast that those on foot can't keep up. Colin, Phoenix, and Hannaway also bear torches as we head out of the courtyard. Once we're past the stables, we turn right and select the trail that will take us to our destination. Dragon's Ridge is several miles outside of Alethea. The terrain isn't too bad, fairly smooth but steep in places, and at night it's hard to see. The torches help a little, but we can't see more than a few feet ahead of us. Who will volunteer to go through the portal? It's a very risky thing considering we're not sure if they're working properly or not. If we had another key, we could send it with the volunteer, just in case. But of course there is no other key. I bite my lip, realizing how futile tonight's effort really might be. Because even if we find out the annual portals are working properly, we still have to find the hidden notebook, and then make a new key. Not willing to risk my father's reprimand, I suppress the urge to swear. Blech. I need a glass of water. Chapter 24 will be Phoenix. Also, I don't get this whole bit where they're like, we need to test if the portals are working properly. Why do you need to test that? What does that have to do with Rose disappearing? What does that inform about Rose disappearing? Like, what's the point of this exercise? To go to Darnisha? Why is that valuable? All right, let's do proper break.
Okay. Let me get comfy here. Chapter 24, Phoenix. My walk into Dragon's Ridge is not exactly enjoyable. Hannaway and Colin, like me, are huffing and puffing after just a couple of miles. Sylvia stops her horse every few minutes and waits for us to catch up. I know if she had the choice, she would walk right along with us, or she would insist we have horses. I sigh. I would probably refuse a horse if I were offered one, or I would insist Sylvia ride even if she could walk. Those are the manners my mother taught me. Treat royalty like royalty. Say please and thank you, and so on and so forth. Rose, now, she's another story. She probably does not have the best manners because her mother left her when she was so young. One of Rose's mother's good friends raised her after that. I assume Rose did not listen to the woman like she would have listened to her own mother, although maybe that's assuming too much. I don't really know because I didn't live in Alethea when we were all young. Instead of dwelling on Rose's lack of manners, I focus on not tripping and falling. It's very hard to see the ground with only the moon and the torches to light the path. On top of that, the torch is made of heavy wood, and occasionally bits of hot ash drop on my skin. But at least it's a warm summer night and we're not freezing. It always does a person good to focus on the good things instead of the bad. It makes the job easier, as my mother used to say. After an unbearably long time, and when I'm quite out of breath, we finally arrive at the top of the ridge. Colin, Hannaway, and I are silent for a few minutes as we cool down and catch our breath. The king and Sylvia patiently watch us, their horses standing completely still. They are the best horses one can find in the kingdom, after all. Colin looks at me and Hannaway to see if we're ready for whatever's next. I'm the last one to recover from the hike, and I finally give them the thumbs up sign. He nods at the king. King Stefan clears his throat. "Who will go into the portal?" His solemn gaze shifts between the three of us. Whoops. Colin and I should have talked about this on the way up here. Sylvia sits uncomfortably on her horse and stares at the ground. I know she would prefer to go than to stay behind, and "I volunteer," Hannaway says and steps forward. "But she's just a child." "You're too young to go through," I exclaim as I walk over to her and put my arm around her narrow shoulders. "I am nearly 12, she argues and politely steps out from under my embrace. "I'm plenty old enough. Besides, I want help." "Miss Hannaway," the king says, "Phoenix is right. Now is not your time, but I appreciate your willingness to go." He looks at Colin and me. "So, which of you two will volunteer?" Colin takes a deep breath and opens his mouth. To accept, I'm sure. But in a rare moment of courage, I step forward and raise my hand. "I will." I'm not really thinking as I do it, or at least not about what it will mean to do it, because just before I stepped forward, Rose's voice pops in my head. "Screw can't, and just do it, Phoenix." This whole chunk, this entire giant chunk, until I say otherwise, is italic inner monologue. That's what she shouted to me as the wind crazily whipped her hair around her face as we stood on the cliffs by the ocean. Rose wanted us to cliff dive, to jump off the cliffs and into the ocean far below. It was her idea of a party. No one had ever tried jumping off these cliffs before, or if they did, they didn't live to tell about it. Rose said she'd heard that humans do it on Earth, and since Rose is never one to let anyone get the best of her, certainly not people from other planets, I can see why she was excited about this. She also told us that she thought the water was deep enough. Keywords, thought, and deep enough. I, on the other hand, was not sure she was right, but it was clear that nothing would stop her from trying something new and exciting. To be honest, though, I was the only hesitant one in the group. Even Sylvia was thrilled to sneak out of the castle and do something dangerous and unusual. When Rose shouted at me above the wind to "screw can't and just do it," we were the only two left on the cliff. Everyone else had already jumped in, but to me it looked like a far and treacherous drop to the boulders below from where I was standing. A minute ago, Colin had yelled back to me, "Don't look down," as he ran off the edge of the cliff, but at the moment I was too busy worrying to heed his advice. Rose was losing patience with me. She would not go in until I did because she wanted to make sure everyone did it, especially me, her practical, cautious friend. I walked closer to the edge to see where everyone was and to look again at the rocks below when Rose suddenly ran at me with a laugh. In that instant, I knew she was going to push me off the cliff. This was her solution. Just before she reached me, I realized I wanted to be able to say that I jumped off a cliff on my own, and not that I got pushed by Rose. That would not be a fun story to tell, or to hear her crow about. I took a deep breath and followed her advice from earlier. Screw can't and just do it. So I ran the last few feet to the edge and I jumped off the cliff. It was one of the most fun things I ever did. I felt like I was flying. I laughed with joy and then remembered to wave my arms in crazy circles like everyone else did to make sure that I would stay upright and go in feet first. And just before I hit the water, I tucked my arms in at my sides so they would not slap the surface. I slid into the water like a seal. Bubbles surrounded me as I sank into the ocean, slowing as I went. It was rather relaxing and quiet, actually. I could see all the way to the bottom. It was shallower than Rose had told us it would be. No surprise there. I looked around for fish or other sea life, but they'd already been scared away by the others. I stayed under for a few seconds, admiring the clarity of the water before kicking up to join everyone else. I resurfaced just as Rose splashed down within a couple feet of me. Holy cow! Clearly she was impatient enough to jump before she made sure I was out of the way. She could have hit me, but maybe she could not stop her momentum when she was running at me up on the cliff. A moment later, her head popped out of the water. I told you it would be fun, she laughed at me, kicking back to the shore. Now hurry up so we can do it again. I swam after her, proud and grateful at the same time. We jumped off the cliffs several more times that day, laughing and having fun. I was glad Rose so easily convinced everyone to come. Mostly I was glad that I did not get pushed off the cliff. I do not think that I would have survived the embarrassment. End of memory sequence. I snap back to the urgent reality of Dragon Ridge as I feel the weight of everyone's stares. It's unnerving and my gut wrenches. What am I doing? Then I look at Hannaway and know it was the right choice. She's too young to be putting her future on the line by going through the portal, even if she is only 2 years younger than me. I glance at Sylvia, who looks shocked that I volunteered to do something dangerous. Yet here I am. The king nods gravely at me. Then get ready, Phoenix. The portal is due to show up any minute. And thank you. I doubt he knows how out of character it is for me to do this. I take a deep breath to steady my nerves and try not to think about what could go wrong. How does Rose laugh and smile while she does stupid things like this? She must be truly mental. She always told us that she should be locked up her entire life, but we just brushed it off thinking she was joking. But maybe Rose is more than a little off her rocker, and it's rubbed off on me. Is insanity contagious? Colin hugs me tightly. Are you sure you want to do this, Phoenix? Because I'm fine with going, or I could go with you. I want to go, I say with as much conviction as I can muster. Besides, you need to stay here and help. Please. I need to do this for Rose. Okay, good luck, he says, then whispers in my ear. I'll see you when you get back. Holy cow, he does understand that I have to do this by myself. I return the hug, glad for the reassurance. At least someone has faith I won't be stuck on Darnisha forever. Thanks. I'll be back as soon as I can. Even I can hear the false courage in my voice. Just as Colin and I pull apart, the portal opens and flashes brightly in front of me, like it knows I'm its victim. This particular portal is one giant, multicolored flat ball of fire. Flat ball? Bitch, that's a circle. Flat ball. It changes colors rapidly, from bright pink, then to dark blue, and neon purple, and every color imaginable, and it doesn't have a white center, like I thought portals usually have. What the? I'm sure that Rose said a portal stays 1 or 2 colors depending on the destination. Why didn't we look up in the book to see what color this is supposed to be? Are multiple colors bad? I should have asked Rose more about the portals when I had the chance. I briefly lock glances with everyone. There's no time to discuss it or even say goodbye. Sylvia looks like she's about to cry, but then again, Sylvia cries at a lot of things. I wish I'd just another minute to hug her goodbye, but we agreed earlier that whoever went through would need to do it immediately. Hannaway looks disappointed. Colin's expression is distinctly worried, and the king simply nods gravely at me to enter the portal. Praying to anyone or anything that will listen, I take a deep breath, 2 running steps, and throw myself through the portal. I close my eyes as I hit it, surprised that it doesn't burn me. I can tell that I'm inside because the atmosphere changes drastically. It feels like the sky right before a lightning storm full of electricity and overflowing with energy. I have the sensation of floating, but I cannot open my eyes or move at all. Panic flares, and I struggle to breathe calmly. Rose never told me what it was like to go through a portal. I went through one when I was young, but I don't remember it well. Besides, I wasn't alone that time. I truly do not think that other... Yeah, that's what it says. I truly do not think that other trip was like this, but I would have remembered if it had been. Something is most definitely not working right with the portal. It seems like I've been immobile and stuck here for an eternity, but as soon as I register that thought, something happens. I'm thrown out of the portal. I try to land on my feet, but land on the ground instead. Tall grass tickles my skin. An insect buzzes around me. My eyes, still squeezed shut, I'm afraid to open them and see where I've ended up. How Rose manages to land gracefully, or at least on her feet when she does not hit the tree, is beyond me. Lots of practice, I suppose. I finally force my eyes open and look at my surroundings. I'm shocked by what I see. This is not at all what I had been expecting. Chapter 25. Rose's Perspective. Days pass. I don't know how many. Food is regularly dumped in my lap, which is the only way I can tell time has passed. I also get let out twice in about 24 hours to use the restroom. Each time, I'm blindfolded until we get there, and when we do, the men wait outside the door so I can't run for it. There's no window in the bathroom, nor is there a shower. It's very utilitarian. I think my captors use it too, so it's not a place I want to linger. I feel like Ben will never come for me, and that I'll never think up an escape plan. It's hard to remain optimistic, to have hope. Line of asterisks. Finally, sometime in between lunch and dinner on what I think is the 5th day, the door unexpectedly opens. I stand up and one of the men, Scarface, pulls me out. He doesn't blindfold me, so I know something's up. The room beyond my own is about the size of my living room at home, but I don't take the time to look around because 2 other men, one is Butch, are both there, glowering at me. What are they planning on doing to me? Are they finally gonna off me? Did Ben not get the money in time? I could try running, but no, there's too many of them. I'll see what they have in store, and if worse comes to worse, fight my way out or die trying. The other man in the room is the creep who kidnapped me from the diner. He seems like the leader, so I call him Fido, parentheses, just because I can. No one says anything, so I let my gaze roam around the room. Empty beer bottles, poker chips, and cards litter a table that has several mismatched wooden chairs around it. The floor is covered in cigarette butts and ground-in ashes. The raucous music from earlier is now gone. The air is thick with cigarette smoke and the smell of unwashed humans. This must be where the horrible smell originates from. Again, I realize how much I hate silence. Finally, Scarface points me to a chair next to the table, so I sit down. Buried under an empty bag of some greasy, crispy food item is a large object like the one I saw in the hotel room with Ben. He told me it was like a cell phone, but it doesn't travel anywhere or fit in pockets. Why people invented these large, clumsy things when there are cell phones, I will never know. And this one even has a cord that plugs into the wall, so it must need electricity. Lame. The door on the opposite side of the room bursts open, and a 4th man stalks brazenly into the room and pauses when he sees me. Frick!
I recognize him right away and stumble to my feet, putting the table in between us. It's the man who was following us that first night, the one I knocked out, the one Ben took a picture of. My anger boils quickly to the surface. The other 3 men jump to their feet while this dude studies me, his chest stuck out like the arrogant bastard I'm sure he is. So this must be a bigger ring of tough guys with a different leader than I'd thought. Old Fido, with his smelly white t-shirt, is just an underling, and not in charge after all. I look steadily into the familiar, beady eyes of the new arrival, trying not to panic or hit him or show any fear, or all 3. My mind races. This puffed up guy doesn't look like a little birdie who told Fido our whereabouts, but it must be, and to top it all off, this little birdie is the boss. "Remember me?" he asks in a cruel, gravelly voice. Duh. "I seem to remember beating your butt into the ground. Have you come back for more?" I taunt him cockily. I sit back down in the chair, put my feet up on the table, and cross my arms on my chest. I can't allow myself to show any fear, even if my little inner voice is screaming, "Run! Run or die!" Besides, if I sit down, maybe he won't see my knees are shaking. He sneers at me with a malicious look on his face. He knows that this time, it won't be me beating him. I'm outgunned, outnumbered, and with the limited information I have right now, outsmarted. At this point, I figure my life is officially over. Chapter 26, Ben's Perspective. I pace in circles around the table in the police station, a half-empty cup of coffee in my hand. Rose has been gone for several days, and I still can't believe she was abducted. Watching her be kidnapped by those dirtbags was awful. I felt completely helpless. I knew the main guy in the white t-shirt, Sal, who dragged her out of the diner, but not the second one guarding the side door, or the third one holding his gun to my head. I didn't even think about trying to fight my way out. Besides, I wouldn't have left without Rose. As soon as Sal shoved Rose's unconscious body in a car, the other 2 men also hopped in. I ran outside just as the car took off down the street like it was in a NASCAR race. I tried to chase it and grab a door handle or something, but it was moving too fast. I continued running down the street after it, even as I watched it speed away. But I did manage to get the license plate number and gave it to the police when they arrived a few moments later. They put out an alert for it, and for the guy I know as Sal. They closed down the diner as a crime scene and tried to see if they could get anything helpful from the customers. I doubted they would. The kidnappers were much too confident to be amateurs, too much of an experienced team. One of the worst parts of this whole ordeal has been knowing that I have Rose's knife. I've been kicking myself every hour since her abduction for having confiscated her knife, for what I have come to realize was a stupid reason. Damn it, she needs it now more than ever, and yet I have it. That knife could have been the difference between her getting away or being captured. I toss out the coffee I'm no longer in the mood for. It's cold anyway. Rose is gone, and I have little to no hope of finding her. I told the police everything I knew about Sal, but it wasn't much and the police didn't seem very helpful. Chicago is a big city. The police also asked me a lot about Rose, and I told them all I could, but there was still a lot I couldn't answer. Who were her parents? Where does she live? They also wondered why there was no record of her existence. No social security number, no birth certificate. I couldn't explain my way out of that one, so I just shrugged my shoulders. They wouldn't believe the truth even if I told them. They'd probably throw me in a mental asylum. The police said they believe Rose is using some kind of alias, and I decided to play dumb and let them think that. After all, I only met her a few days ago, and I told them that. They made me describe her several times, and I did so to the best of my ability. They sketched her, but it didn't look a whole lot like her. The face in the drawing had no animation or life in her eyes. It was a mournful picture of someone who could have been Rose's pale, quiet sister. Sighing, I rub my unwashed face with my none too clean hands and wish I could take a shower, but I don't have anywhere to do so. Besides, there's no way I'm leaving. From where I sit in the lounge in the back of the downtown precinct office, I can barely hear the murmur of people talking out front. I put my feet up on one of the utilitarian chairs around the small, round table and stare blankly at the wall with the mini fridge, counter and sink, and coffee maker. As if I found out during the past 2 nights, the couch and recliner on the opposite wall are comfortable enough. Oh, I'm sorry. As I've found out during the past 2 nights, the couch and recliner are comfortable enough. This would be a very relaxing place to drink a cup of coffee or read a book, under other circumstances. I toy with a photocopy of the ransom note that arrived the day after Rose was abducted. It's already dog-eared from me reading it so often, trying to gain any clues that the police might have missed from the typed demand for $10,000 to be delivered to a location to be determined, but none of us have figured out anything. I could make amends with my parents and ask my dad for help. Of course, they would only allow me to return home if I admitted the key thing was garbage and not real, although it would be worth it if I could get Rose back. The police chief strides into the room, a hopeful expression on his face. "Ben, we found something that might interest you," he says in a thick Chicago accent. I have no idea what a Chicago accent sounds like. Oh, please, let this be good news. There hasn't been anything new since the ransom note arrived. I quickly follow him into his office. He shuts the door behind me. "We just had a witness step forward anonymously. This person managed to take pictures of the men who abducted Miss Sanders. We sent the pictures to our colleagues across the city in case these kidnappers are spotted." We're going transatlantic, apparently. "And more good news. We've been able to positively identify these thugs. We know who they are, including the one who calls himself Sal, and we've learned these men are not acting alone." Yes. I lean forward in my seat, eager to see the pictures and learn the names of these scumbags who took Rose. The chief hands me the pictures of the men. I nod. Yep, that's the, period. That sounds fun. It just says, yup, that's the, and then a comma, and then a period. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. The chief continues. "Do you know who their leader might be?" I shake my head no, and the chief looks as crestfallen as I feel. I glance at the pictures again. They're grainy and a bit blurry, just like you'd expect from a picture taken from a cell phone. Oh, dated. Something nags at me. It takes me a painfully long minute, but I finally figure it out. I just remembered something. I stand up and pace again, this time with excitement. Sal had said their informant had had a run-in with Rose and me. I wonder if that's him? The leader? The guy who was following Rose and I when we first met? And Rose had me take a picture of him? 2 pictures? I'm so damn stupid. How could I have forgotten? If I hadn't been frozen in fear during Rose's abduction and not paying much attention to what was going on, I would have figured this out sooner. Then we might have found her by now. Why did I have to freeze up like some coward? I pull out my phone and scroll through the options to my photos. They're the last 2 I took, and I show the picture to the police chief. This guy was following Rose and me the first day I met her, and I just remembered that. In the diner, Sal said something about a guy having followed us and then told Sal where to find us when we were at the diner. Thank goodness Rose knew cell phones have cameras built in, even if she couldn't remember the word for camera. Shit, how could I have not thought of this, not put the pieces together before this? The police chief studies the photo on my cell for a moment, then turns to the cluttered bulletin board behind him and pulls down a piece of paper with a lot of mugshots on it. "Is this the man?" He hands me a paper and points to the photo in the upper right corner. I stare at it. My stomach clenches. Yes, that's the man who followed us. Who is he? "His name's Jace. We've had several cases point to him, some with him as the prime suspect, but we've never been able to find him to bring him in for questioning. Chances are we never will. He knows how to avoid us. He's recently been linked to a counterfeit money scheme that's being run by loan sharks on the south side of town." That voice is fun. Seriously? The police already know about this creep and they still can't bring him in? That's not what I want to hear. I say angrily and toss the paper onto the desk. I want to hear that you will find him, and if you don't, you will at least find Rose. The chief looks at me resignedly. He's probably had people yell at him before, and he knows how little it accomplishes. I'm not making any promises I can't keep, he says bluntly. So make me a promise and then make sure you keep it. I bite my tongue to keep from telling him my thoughts. I need some fresh air, away from these incompetent cops. I stalk to the office door and open it. The chief's voice calls me back. One more thing before you go. We've heard from them again, and just before I came and got you... We've heard from them again just before I came and got you. The kidnappers have raised the ransom to $15,000 by the end of the week. We found the new demand in the fax machine a few minutes ago, sent from a city library. I sent officers to check it out, and the sergeant here has already called to ask the library messenger if he has security video so we could see who was in there today, but unfortunately, the place doesn't do them. Doesn't do them? Doesn't do security videos? I slam my hand against the door, more frustrated than I've ever been. It bounces against the wall and nearly smacks me in the face. He frowns. I have even more bad news, son. I'm sorry, but we won't be able to raise that much for a person nobody but you seems to know. And if none of her family come forward to help, well, we can still try to use the fake money for the ransom drop we talked about, but... He sighs as he walks past me without a word. I'm so frustrated that I punch a hole in the wall. It looks like somebody's already done that. Several someones. The wall has 4 or 5 holes inexpertly patched with sheetrock. Well, now there will be another one. My stupid mistakes of first taking out a loan with a stranger and then not paying it back in time, those mistakes are going to get Rose killed. How could I have let this happen? Again, I'm tempted to ask my dad to help me get her back, but I can't speak to him now, not after nearly a year of not talking to him, not when he doesn't love me enough to believe me about the key. As I storm out of the office, I kick the doorframe for good measure. It's solid steel, so now my big toe is more injured than the building is. But I don't care. There's nothing I can do about it, or, apparently, about getting Rose back. Line of asterisks. 5 days have passed. 5 miserably long days and nights spent at the police station, hoping something will break loose in the case as I watch the deadline approach. We have contact, the chief yells from the conference room where we've been working. Get in here now, Cooley! I jump out of my chair and run down the short hall to the large, brightly lit room. We had already decided that if phone contact was made and the kidnappers let someone talk to Rose, it would be me. After all, I'm the only person who knows her. I grab the phone. Hello. I listen intently for any sound that might help us determine where she's being held. Hello to you too, says that laughing, wonderfully sarcastic voice I've missed. I'm sorry I've taken a rather unexpected vacation. Fuck, I goddamn hate you, Rose, so much. Words tumble out of me. Nice to know you're well, Rose. So, anything you'd like to say to me? I ask her, bouncing on the balls of my feet in happiness. She's okay. Well, okay enough to be joking around. Yes, actually, I have something I want to tell you, but seeing as there's a gun pointed at me, I'll leave that part out. I'd just like you to tell my mom, Matilda Sanders, that I say hi, and tell my dad, David Sanders, that his little Rosie Posey can't wait to see him. What's she saying? How can I possibly contact her parents? They're on another planet. Then the first name clicks. Matilda Sanders. Our waitress. Okay, that's weird. Why Rose wants me to give that message to the waitress, I don't know, but of course I'll do it. Okay. Sure. Any other messages? 10 seconds, I hear a gruff male voice say from the other end of the line. I need 15 more seconds to get the exact location, sir, one of the police techs whispers behind me. Rose's voice comes back on the line. I'll return from my little trip soon enough, I'm sure, she says dryly. In the meantime, you should probably get a job and get some cash, my friend. Whatever you want, princess, I say just before the line goes dead. I stare at the phone before I put it back in its stand. It was her. She's really okay. And now we can trace where the call came from and then rescue her. I didn't get an exact location, sir, says the tech apologetically, but I've narrowed it down to about a quarter-mile radius. I let out a groan of frustration. That's a lot of ground to cover, especially when I see the location, smack dab in the middle of highly populated, densely urban downtown Chicago. The only good news is that it's close to where we are now. So Matilda and David Sanders are her parents? Do you know who they are? The police chief turns and asks me, a small spark of hope in his eyes. I frown. I don't know her parents. I told you that already. But I do know a person we just met at the 7th Avenue Diner whose name is Matilda Sanders. She was our waitress. I can go back to the diner and talk to her, although I'm not sure she'll know what Rose was talking about. I was under the impression that Rose's parents don't live anywhere around here. The chief looks skeptical. I head toward the door. I'm going to the diner and see if the waitress knows anything about what Rose was talking about. Hold on a minute. I'll send a couple of my men with you. No. This is something I need to do by myself, I say firmly as I swing my jacket on and grab my backpack from the corner of the room. Suit yourself, the chief shrugs. Tell the sergeant on your way out the name and address of the diner, and let us know immediately if this makes any sense to that waitress. The diner is only 5 blocks down from the police station, and I walk so fast I'm practically jogging. This could be the break we need. When I arrive, I take a seat at the counter and impatiently drum my fingers on the worn, red countertop. What can I do you for? A gray-haired guy behind the counter asks me. Is the waitress Matilda Sanders here? I ask hopefully. No, but her shift's in 15 minutes, he replies. Why? I've got a question for her, I say vaguely, trying not to look too impatient, or like I'm a stalker or something. While I'm waiting, can you get me a coffee, please? The guy looks at me skeptically, probably wondering what I want with the waitress. He hands me a cup of coffee, but I'm too tense to take a sip. I rest my head in my hands. This is going to be a long 15-minute wait. Why would Rose want Matilda's husband, Mr. Sanders? Does she really think that he's her dad? Hadn't Rose said something about her kind being able to sense when their family members are nearby? So does she sense something? And maybe that's why she thinks this is her dad? Come back to give me a tip, I hear a familiar voice and then a laugh. Matilda, finally I can get some answers. Swiveling around on the chair, I say solemnly, more like to ask you a question, actually. It has to do with Rose's abduction. Oh dear, she's still missing? I'm so sorry. I nod glumly. Yes, but we made contact today with the men who took her. I spoke with her, and she told me the weirdest thing. The waitress leans on the counter, listening. She said, I'd like you to tell my mom, Matilda Sanders, that I say hi, and tell my dad, David Sanders, that his little rosy posy can't wait to see him. I'm hoping you might know what she was talking about. Matilda straightens forward and frowns in confusion. My husband's name is David, she says slowly. Maybe he knows what she's talking about. We've only been married for 5 years. From what I know, he was married once before and had children, but he didn't live anywhere near Chicago. I don't know for sure, though. He doesn't like to talk about it. She shrugged one shoulder. She shrugged one shoulder? Like a wink shrug? That's crazy. I've always believed that he has perfectly logical reasons for not telling me. Her blind faith in him seems odd to me, and the rest of us, honey. But she must be a naturally trusting person. She pats my shoulder. Come on, I'll get someone to cover my shift and we'll go ask David about it. I'm sure he'll try his best to help you find your friend. He's really very kind. Just give me 5 minutes to find someone to take over. I don't want to anger my boss. It takes less time than that. The cook's friend is quickly on her way to replace Matilda. We leave right away, and I let out a sigh of relief. All this waiting is going to kill me. Maybe this was Rose's great plan all along when she was proposing ways she could kill me. Death by waiting. Well, she certainly gets points for creativity. My house is about a 5-minute walk, Mrs. Sanders says as we exit the diner. That's how I start to think of her, as Mrs. Sanders, which just seems more respectful. I nod, then ask nervously, "So, Rose's dad is your husband, but you're not her mom." "He might not be her dad," she cautions me. "I'd be surprised if he were." I'm not sure if I'm hoping Mr. Sanders is her father or not, but whatever will get her freed works for me. Rose seemed to think that he is her dad, and he has the same name. Not to mention the fact that you said he looked like your husband. She looked like your husband. I look over at Mrs. Sanders' worried frown, and reality knocks me down again. I guess she just wants someone to see if it's her dad or not. It doesn't really give us a clue to her location, but maybe he'll know if she was talking in a code or something. I'm feeling desperate. We turn a corner, and I pick up the pace. Fortunately, Mrs. Sanders complies. She's quiet for another block, then asks, "Do you know what age Rose was when her father left?" Honestly, I don't know much about Rose. I didn't even know her dad had left. I only met her a few days ago, under interesting circumstances, I say with a laugh, trying to make light of the situation. Mrs. Sanders shoots me a funny look. "Sounds a bit sketchy to me," she says warily. Crap. I should have just told her that I didn't know. I promise there was nothing illegal going on when I met Rose. If your husband really is her dad, I'll explain everything. If not, I'm afraid I won't be able to tell you. The reason why we banded together is a secret for the two of us alone, I explain, trying to set her straight without really revealing anything. Well, nothing illegal except for the underage gambling, the confrontation with that Jace guy that led to the kidnappers finding Rose and me. If I just hadn't taken the wrong turn in the burned out part of the city, I would still be with Rose, watching her get whipping cream on her lips when she guzzles hot chocolate, and helping her get home. Why do I have to be so stupid? All right. That's it. That's all I got tonight. Next week will be chapter 27, Phoenix. And at the pace we've been going, it's not going to be more than another 2 weeks before we're done. Will Rose get unkidnapped? Would the knife have made a difference? Is this guy her dad? Almost definitely. What is this? Why is someone saying, why am I getting "don't hug me, I'm scared"? I've got a fax coming through for you. Wait, why is this caption? Hello, you're doing well. I like you. Did the police get a fax? Is that why I got sent this? All right, yeah, I'm out. I'll be back tomorrow. I'll be back in 22 hours. I don't know when Bullet Hell Jam actually ends. But we'll have to kind of pick through that a little bit sometime this week, because I'm sure it ends earlier than... Oh, yeah. Oh, it ends in just a few hours. Yeah, so tomorrow we'll start picking through Bullet Hell Jam and curate out what we think is some of the best of that for Ryan to play next Saturday. Yeah. All right, cool. I'll see y'all tomorrow, okay? All right.
that's the end of the show. All of us have got to go back on home. I hope you had a lot of fun. We'll catch you at the next one, or whenever we do at